the TRC informs a large part of our family history. But I believe that the TRC was a failure. It did nothing. And so years later, Fees Must Fall comes about, and it becomes so much more pressing that the protests that we engage in result in something. By the third day, I went home and the songs kept ringing in my head. I was a student at Wits when the Fees Must Fall protest started. I started studying at the university in 2009. 2 years later, I received a financial exclusion, and it took 4 years to come back. And when I came back, I received a full scholarship. But I couldn't continue with my LLB. The university told me that the credit weighting had changed. And so I had to start a degree from scratch, which was probably the most painful thing to do, because when you're liable for black tax, knowing that you're set back so many years in terms of study is difficult. And I think that's how I became involved. I don't think the realization hit on the first day that this was very much my story as well. We went down and our idea was we're just going to film it because, we never thought it would last more than a day or two. We were going to protest and we would have had some cool footage, and we would have told the story of the protest. But when we realized the magnitude of the protest and what it was that was actually what we were protesting for, who was protesting, and when we started to see the response around protest, that changed our perception. So by the third day, all I could think about was my family members that still live in RDP houses. I thought about my cousins who could potentially have the opportunity to go to university where that potential never existed before. And I thought about what it meant for me to have received a financial exclusion that then forced me to pay fees for something that I would never get. And when I went home on the third day, I remember thinking to myself, if I don't do this, then all of those that come after me are going to have to. And I didn't think that was fair. I think what people missed about Fees Must Fall was that Fees Must Fall wasn't, in as much as the main call was for free quality decolonized education, that was not the only facet of Fees Must Fall that was being fought for. I came from a poorer background, and what a lot of people forget are the intersections of our identities. Those intersections informed our involvement oftentimes in Fees Must Fall. To some extent, I was part of the leadership structure both in 2015 and 2016. And when I sat and chatted to some of the leaders in the times in between protests where we were sitting waiting, or when we'd been arrested or in moments where we were detained, when you listen to the stories, people came to Fees Must Fall because they wanted education. That education meant way more than just a degree. That education meant being the first qualified person in your family. That education meant that your family members, your kin, could perhaps have a better chance at life once you were done here. They were mothers, sisters, aunts, brothers, cousins, they were families that were present in Fees Must Fall through representations of students whose names we still don't know. During Fees Must Fall at Wits, I chaired a lot of the meetings. And so I think perhaps Solomon Mahlangu House is the one space that haunts me, that holds a lot of trauma. I think the most haunting space is still Solomon Mahlangu House, because it was at the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, that there were only a handful of us left, and we refused to move. We got manhandled, pushed around, tear gas was thrown at us, we were shot at in that space. I slept there for many nights. Probably for the first few weeks of Feast Must Fall, I slept in Solomon Mahlangu house. I watched people teach each other in that space. There were whole lessons that took place there. People were fed there. Some of the biggest wins were made in that space. But for all of the good, that space haunts me because that is the space where people come to die. That's the space where you get a feast statement that says that you're not coming back. That's the space where they decide your fate when you've got a disciplinary hearing. That's the space that the university locked up several times that we weren't allowed to go into. Sometimes we were locked in it. But I saw some of the best parts of humanity there too. I'll never forget when we signed the insourcing deal with it. When people started crying, when we sang to the workers, when leaders went up to hug one another, that was brilliant. I think about how the space is structured, how many thousands of students could go into that space and listen to things happen, but at the same time that space became an immediate site of violence whenever security came in, when police came in. That space houses the Vice Chancellor.